welcome. Let's start by covering gear and spec real quick. Now, I always recommend any plate gear with stam and int. This doesn't change just because we are AoE farming. Your primary damage source for these runs is consecrate, and no amount of reflection gear is going to provide enough meaningful damage to make or break your clear time. This means that you start with plate gear of the Eagle. The next logical upgrade from there is your Lightforge set, which basically is Eagle gear with strength, then tier gear, and for more specifics on some slots, I have an entry-level BIS list in my Holy Proc guide, which I'll link in the description below. In this video, I'm using Skullflame Shield, but actually Argent Defender is going to be more ideal for this farm, since it'll reduce your damage taken drastically. I happen to have deleted mine one night while clearing out my bank. Mistakes were made. From what I understand, the 50% block chance proc does stay on even if you swap shields, so you could consider hot swapping to Crest of Retribution when the buff is up and get a lot of value. Before I bother going into specs, let's talk about an item that actually matters, which is the weapon Flame Wrath. This weapon has a proc that provides a fire shield which scales 1-to-1 with spell damage. With entry-level spell damage, this Thorns-like buff provides more damage than Consecrate, and since these mobs attack fast, it's pretty insane to say the least. They just melt. This drops off Ambassador Flamelash in BRD, and a great way to farm this is to do what I call the triple trinket run. Go do a quest called the Love Potion from the Succubus in Grim Guzzler so that you can open the door with no hassle. And since Ribley in the Guzzler also drops a 16 slot bag, it's pretty easy to convince people to add an extra 5 minutes to the usual Angerforge Golem run. Now let's see it in action. As always, the best way to try and force a proc is to use Seal of Righteousness because it's a 2-for-1 chance. And as you can see, I'm hovering over the buff here. The base damage is 10, but what you're actually seeing is 89 damage a tick on my screen because I have 79 spell damage. It literally is 1-to-1, absolutely insane. The 13 damage that you're seeing on the screen there is also from my Essence of Pure Flame from Ragnaros, which is just icing on the cake. Between Consecrate and Flame Wrath, that is all you're gonna need to blow through this place. So one of the things that's daunting for new players when doing this particular farm is these patrolling trees here. And there's a number of safe spots you can go to, this being the first one right next to this tree, where the pats will never touch. You can just hang out, bring all the mobs there nice and safely. A mage, for instance, might run through mobs and push them towards certain spots, but what I'm going to do is kite everything backwards because I'm constantly fishing for procs on my weapon. I just love it too much. Speaking of which, I get a little greedy sometimes, and like there's no reason for me to take all that extra damage trying to get the proc. When we saw in the first poll, I didn't even need it. This means now I'm kind of behind on health, so what I'll do is I'll switch to Concentration Aura since I have Spiritual Focus in my talent tree, and then heal with that. Then switch back to Ret Aura so I can keep doing that extra damage. This is a pretty common occurrence in this run. Usually you don't have to do it if you're at a good gear level. Like generally I can do a pack 100-0, no Flame Wrath, no nothing. But that's basically just reason 157 to have Spiritual Focus on your talents. So let's talk about the money. Your primary source of income here is just vendoring everything and selling off the herbs on the auction house. You can reasonably expect a base of 25 to 30 G an hour if you sell all the greens. I wouldn't exactly consider that an amazing source of income, but it is easy. You also get the opportunity to find 2 books in this area, and we'll be coming up on those spots shortly here. Oh, and ignore the value add on saying that that's worth 30 gold because it's just trash. I happen to list random stuff on the auction house for really high prices just to see what happens. I also like to hold on to the pocket lint as a good way to remind myself how many books I've found so far. So we could run forward on that poll to where the next book is located, but I'm going to kite them back because yet again, I'm just trying to fish for that Flame Wrath. So this entire video is just raw footage, and the reason for that is because of these patrols. I think it's important to see them in action the entire time, because in order to get used to this particular run, you really got to get a feel for these patrols and how they go. As you can kind of see here, there's always a back and forth. If one patrol's going right, the other one's going left and right, and it's just an interchanging thing of that. You can really take advantage of that, and as long as you know the safe spots, your goal is just to rush down a safe spot. So here's another one, and this is right next to a book. There's going to be a lasher to my right, and right where my mouse is about to hover in that area near the tree up there on the top side of the screen, that is where the book is going to be. You are able to walk over to that book and pick it up without aggroing that lasher, as long as you do it from the furthest side of him. It'll make more sense if you ever see the book spawn there. And just for more emphasis, that is the exact location that I'm about to hover here. That's where the book is. And you can come from the left side and just kind of inch your way over and not aggro that dude. Provided, of course, that you're level 60. I don't think you can get away with that even at 59, honestly. It's pretty tight. Moving on, we're going to beeline across the room here, and you can see that one patrol just went past the tree, so he's going to be near there, which means I'm going to wait near the tree and make sure that these guys come back. And this is the only pack that we actually will go through, because we want to get out of this hallway ASAP. I'm going to go around the side just a little bit to mess with the mobs, because they have some weird LOS issues in this particular area. But we're going to take them back here and absolutely positively make sure that you are like behind this pillar, because they come all the way up there, and I'm actually playing it a little too close personally. The other reason that we come back here instead of pulling them across the room is because this is where another book spawns. It's basically right where that pod is, and you want to be careful when looting it, because this other patrol will come right up to your face there. And I'm actually going to go for the pod because I happen to like getting the Runtum tubers out of them, but you know, that one just kind of gypped me. All right, so coming up is the only spot in the run that's dubious. Yet again, we have this patrol that's going to come from the right side, so we want to make sure we don't aggro that, which I don't even check here, pretty ballsy. And then secondly, there is a single satire that pats up and down this hallway to our left. And on this particular route, with about the same timing, I never run into him, but I do prepare for it just in case. You know, you can single target him down. It's a bit annoying as a paladin. You just don't have any of that, like, kind of mage or rogue burst that a lot of people use here. But he is pretty easy as long as you're ready for it. Just a bit of a cheeky pull. This pat is probably the most deadly here because he comes close to the other group, and then this one. We're going to come from the back end here, and even though they're about to come right back and like almost still aggro them, not too shabby. It's a bit of a time-saving maneuver when you do it that way, but ultimately it doesn't matter because we're already like almost 10 minutes and we still have to reset the dungeon and stuff. So, you know, we really got to be pushing 15 ideally for each run. And a lot of people will combo this group with the one all the way down in the corner that we're going to do last. But you can see I just do each group individually because the run's already so fast and I can't really add anything crazy into it. So there's just no point in trying to like rush stuff down and do two groups at one, even though we can. Now, as for resetting the dungeon, you may have noticed that I am in a raid group with my alt there named Tank Daddy, who you can see is disconnected right below my plate there. And the idea is that if you're in a raid group with an alt, you can log over and you don't get kicked. Like the raid group will still exist. So what's going to happen is after I kill all of these, I'm going to log off, hop over to my alt, and then I'm going to wait about 2 minutes for the leadership to transfer so that I can reset the dungeon. And once I've reset the dungeon, I log back on my main and I just start right at the start of the instance again where the video began. Can't really get any easier than that. And ultimately this run is pretty good just because of its ease. I would highly recommend it to anyone who's just trying to make some quick money and doesn't want to have to like mount up and run around and go hit mining nodes or something and then mount up again and, you know, constantly be PvPing. Like just hang out, farm and take it easy.